What are the clues in your life that could explain your homosexual tendency?
The first hint I see is the relation I always had with my father. He wasn't really a loving dad. He would work so hard, wasn't often at home. The only time he was there, we never felt the affection or love that we needed to receive from him, my brothers and me. For instance, he would never say, "I love you," or never hug or cuddle us, nothing. And I think this generated a sort of emotional deprivation. As anyone knows, we all have different levels of sensitivity. In my personal case, I think this affected me a bit. And that may be why I started seeking the affection I never got from my father with other men. The second hint, when I was around 8, 9 years old, one of my brother's older friends often came at home to visit us. He was around 14 years old, when he would be alone, him and I. He started touching me, abusing me. It didn't happen only once, it went on during almost a year. I think this may have altered how I would perceive myself and manhood. I didn't really think there was a problem then. It was beautiful. Surely it would give me the affection I didn't receive from my father or my brother. That person told me he loved me, was looking after me, was spending time with me. I remember I liked that situation.
My parents got married very young. They had two very different socio-economic backgrounds, and they suffered from civil war. My father was in the army, he had to spend a lot of time in his service. My mother was pregnant and waited for him at the army headquarters. She stayed alone for a long time. Once I was born, I missed my father's presence and any other masculine presence, especially as a child and then as a teenager.
I spent a lot of time trying to understand why. I started searching when I was a teenager. I read a few articles about it. For a long time, I thought it was because as a kid, around 6 or 7 years old, I would identify with my father much more than with my mother. I didn't want to be like her. I remember very well, when people would compare me with my mother, I felt aggressed, rejected. I often thought it was in the major part because of that. When I was a kid, I looked a lot like a boy. My hair was short. I was a tomboy. I played only with boys. For a long time, I thought it was strictly because of that. But then, I realized there were potential other factors. Recently, I thought about how my 1-year older sister might have influenced me. She also was a tomboy. I think she might have influenced me. I believe there are many factors, and that I can retrieve them in many parts of my life. To me, most important ones remaining: my relationship to my parents, my challenge to identify with my mother against identifying easily with my father.
It's a question I keep asking myself today. Many factors might have played a role, like my father's absence when I was young. It's complex. I still have a long path to go, I think, to try to understand this, but I believe it's above all my father's absence.
Would you have wished to be a girl? Were you a sissy boy when you were a child?
I was so effeminate. In high school, I spent my time with girls and we would play roles together. Hence role plays like, I'm getting married, I'm going to have kids. I would prefer these games to playing football with other children. The most shocking part may be that I found these girly games so entertaining. They would feel natural to me. When back at home, I would start playing these girly roles, girls only, girls-oriented stories. My mother and father panicked when seeing this, so I got scared a lot too. I've always been very feminine, delicate, a highly sensitive whiner. Sometimes I would wander like a little girl, or I would behave like one, but it made me sad. I hated getting punched. I was afraid of the ball. I would run away from fights. Once in kung fu fighting, a girl tried to hit me, and I was scared to replicate.
No, I never felt like being a woman. Oh, as a kid, I remember my brother and I used to play roles of mother and father. I don't remember exactly if I would choose this role, but I always ended up being the mother. My brother was the father, I was the mother.
Initially, yes, clearly. Even today, I still believe my life may have been simpler with that. Although, when I think of it, I think it's good to be a man. I'm learning to accept it, little by little, to love it, not to imagine or hope being a girl.
It may have come through my mind, it's true. I would have loved to be a woman. I admire women's beauty a lot, and I strongly admire all women. So yeah, I would have liked it. I wouldn't have said no.
What were the founding songs and movie of your childhood and adolescence?
The Disney culture influenced me the most when it comes to my homosexuality. All Disney movies literally made me feel like a princess. I grew up surrounded with girls, my sister and my two cousins. I spent all my teenagehood with Cinderella, Ariel, Pocahontas, Sleeping Beauty. It led me to think, without any masculine reference in mind, it must be so great to be a princess. They are the center of the attention. Moreover, my sister and my cousins are all very pretty. With them, I also ended up as the center of the attention, and I made the internal decision, oh, I want to be a princess. I was also strongly influenced by animated movies. The Japanese culture impacted me a lot. Movies or shows like Ramna and a Half, about the story of a man transforming into a woman when in cold water, were great references to me, because I felt bad with my own body. I'd see Ramna and a Half so happy turning both into a man or a woman, and I would think, this is the solution to my problems. I also loved Sailor Moon because I was always attracted to the power stars. I loved the style of the feminine heroes, how they would dress. My other favorite manga was Knights of the Zodiac. There was an effeminate character called Andromede. I was funny as I identified with him, and when we'd play roles with friends, I would always want to be him.
There are so many. I'm so emotional when I remember The Little Mermaid. I really loved Sleeping Beauty and Cinderella stories too. As a teenager, I would identify so much with Miss Detective, with Sandra Bullock. I was a big fan of pop music in Mexico, such as Jeans, Mercurio. I've always been very pop and keen on romantic stories.
I grew up in front of TV. Some people think I have a great culture, but I only watch cartoons my whole childhood. I was fond of Tintin cartoons especially, and I would watch many music clips. I loved Charlie's Angels. I would identify with them. I would turn my head around, as if I had an amazing brushing. Or I would walk around like a top model. Once, in a supermarket, my mom told me, "You move your butt like a Spanish cow." It offended me so much. Another time, as I was a very joyful kid, the bell of our home rang. I opened to a salesman who then told my mom, "Your lovely daughter opened the door." I was playing a role. I would identify with Charlie's Angels. Sometimes, boys in my class would call my name just to laugh when they see me turn around. But when I'd see myself, and when it would come back into my face, this role I'd play to imitate actresses or singers I like, it was so violent. I just didn't see me do the things I'd do. If I didn't see it, it was okay, but I'd come to see it in the eyes of people around me. The reality would bang into my face, and it'd become so difficult to digest, because in the end, people would remind me I was role-playing, and I don't love myself.
Do you think people are born homosexual?
I don't think any research found out a gay gene so far. And I don't think people get born this way. It's strongly related to our story. But our story doesn't start when we get born, as we've already spent 9 months in our mom's belly. Some things might happen during that time too. I believe homosexuality is a mystery. You can seek for its reasons, but you may never find out why one becomes homosexual.
Well, I don't know. I don't know because some cases show it's here when you're born, but no one can prove it's here since the beginning. Other cases show it develops through life. So I have no answer. What I'm more interested in is speaking of what's happening now. That's it. Homosexual inclination exists. Since when? For how long? I don't have the answer. But I still like to recognize it there. It's part of some people's sexuality. Personally, I tend to believe that people acquire homosexuality rather than are born with it.
I believe people become homosexual or transgender.
Certainly there are different circumstances and situations one may know in his childhood or teenage years which, in some way or another, seeing the similarities observed between subjects presenting same-sex attractions can be defined as grounds possibly leading the person to same-sex attraction. I'm not saying there are causes. If I did, it would imply that there are effects. I also know that some people in similar circumstances, with similar emotional losses, don't develop any homosexual tendency, so I wouldn't call these causes. I'd call them common backgrounds or correlated situations.
I started growing up and realizing I would pity my own body. I would pity it because I felt a complete gap between what I imagined and what my body would feel. I was afraid of considering the mirror, of seeing how it transformed. The idea I made of myself often developed through feminine figures and feelings I grew up surrounded by. It didn't correspond to the male body I could see growing into the mirror.
This might be tough to hear, but I don't believe ontological, so-called by birth, homosexuality exists. I believe the mother of homosexuality, the attraction to same-sex people, is trisidentity. I see it in my own life and in my gay friends' lives. Those who have no conflict with their sexual identity. I believe that before they felt homosexual, those who call themselves homosexual by birth initially weren't comfortable with the gender they were born with. The mother of homosexuality is trisidentity. I'm not saying transgender, because I never put my masculine body or identity at doubt.
Have you ever thought that your homosexuality could be temporary?
No, certainly not. It's a reality I deeply live with. I'm not opposed to it, and I don't think it will pass away. let's just say I embrace it, and I welcome it with a sense of responsibility and peacefully.
No, I wish at some point, when I was a teenager, someone told me it could be temporary. Rather, when I converted to God, so when I was around 25, I told myself, maybe I could end up loving men. But this happened when I was 25. But no, I never really told myself it was temporary.
I try. I force myself to believe it. But no, I didn't think it could be. When I was 3 years old, in nursery school, when I would sing Sur le pont d'Avignon, a famous French rhyme, I would identify with girls. And when we had to do the gesture that come with a song, boys bend like this, girls bend like this, I felt like bending with the girls. I felt so young, so early, I was homosexual and that I wasn't a boy, almost since I was born, even if I can prove it. I never imagined feeling another way, that's it. Also, I have a twin brother. This is a natural fact. I was born as a twin. I met so many homosexuals that were born a twin, so I don't relate my homosexuality to an absent or tyrannical father, or to a possessive mother. In my case, it's much more related to being a twin, which is something I inherited when I was born. This fact settles me in a durable homosexual inclination, even though I don't want to reduce myself to my tendency. I know I'm free, and that homosexuality isn't my identity or my essence.
Do you think you can ever change your sexual orientation?
Wow, I don't know. That is a big question for me. Every day I think I ask it to myself. Sometimes I think of it when I wake up and when I go back to sleep. Obviously, this question is strongly related to my faith in God. Every time I see a pretty girl, I wonder, how long will I remain struck? And when I meet a beautiful boy, I also wonder, how long again will my attraction last? To be fair, I have no answer. I don't know what tomorrow looks like.
To me, it's not important, it's not something I want to pursue. However, if one doesn't feel comfortable with oneself because of one's homosexual attraction, well, I understand, and I'd support him finding a way to change. In my case, it's not something I'm looking for.
Some people claim they used to be homosexual and aren't anymore. Of course, it never happens in one day. Often they went through a therapy with specialists, or at least so-called specialists. As we trust and respect each other's stories here, why wouldn't we believe them too? If someone says he's not attracted to same-sex people anymore, why should we doubt him? I frequently visit a psychologist who claims she's a specialist. She assures she helped many people live same-sex attraction. I also follow her program, going through a therapy, but I don't go crazy with it. I don't push myself to do it in order to stop being gay, stop feeling erotically attracted to same-sex people. It's not something wrong or even dangerous, no. I keep relaxed with that. I follow the treatment to see where it leads me. If my homosexuality disappears, great, but otherwise I'll keep walking. I'm not obsessed with it.
I did start a psychoanalysis, and not with one therapist only. I did what we could call the Psy tour. Since I was 12, I saw around 10 psychologists with 10 different methodologies. It went from New Age therapy to cognitive behavioral therapies. New Age therapies helped me the least. In my case, I got advice from so-called professionals. They would give me more fears, more doubts, or false hopes than anything else. Or, on the contrary, they would help my fantasy grow. Our homosexual community is not so down to earth already. I don't think we need such therapists to support us on top of everything else.
Only the future can tell us. As of today, since I almost always felt like a girl, I don't believe it can really change. I just need to learn how to live with it, as I currently do. Maybe in the end it will change, but I don't think so.
Why do you pay so much attention to your sexual orientation?
Well, because it's a part of me, of who I am. I don't give it too much importance, but I still feel and embrace it as it is. I think it's important to be at peace, to have a balance, not to lie to yourself. That's why I give it the importance it needs.
What is the definition of homosexuality?
I am at GAYS. Let's study where the word homosexuality comes from. It's very interesting. The Hungarian Card Benny came up with it in 1868. So it's a quite recent word. And this word, homosexuality, is a mix of concepts. Why? It's a mix of Latin and Greek. Homo means identical in Greek, sexuality, secare in Latin, to cut, means different. One word contains both the concepts of similarity and difference. It's almost a contradictory word. In addition to etymology, homosexuality can mean 5 different things. Even if people don't realize it. It designates the physical attraction to same-sex people, which I think really defines homosexuality. Secondly, the word also designates the people who feel that attraction. Thirdly, the word can designate the couple as an act, to individuals practicing their homosexuality together. The word can also designate the couple as persons, to individuals settling as a homosexual couple. And finally, the word is also used to designate homosexual practice itself. Homosexual practice itself designates a wide range of different things. A first feeling, a first sight, a kiss, sleeping together, settling as a couple. That's it. It's difficult to know what stands exactly behind the word practice. Those 5 dimensions don't make it easy to understand each other when debating. Some people think it's a matter of individuals, others a matter of practice or a matter of couples. Although homosexuality is never defined in the first place, homosexuality is deeply a feeling, an emotion, a sexual attraction that makes us free to decide how to deal with it. Some people with homosexual feelings may never go into practice. Some individuals are single, that still makes them homosexual, just like a homosexual couple. It's so important to study the origins of the concept of homosexuality. Because when you think it's only a matter of individuals, it becomes challenging to talk about it, as if talking about homosexuality is judging people or reducing them to their practice. As an example, Christine Boutin went on trial when she quoted the Bible, "Homosexuality is an abomination." Some LGBT activists took advantage of the blurred area around homosexuality as a word to state Christine Boutin is homophobic, who say that homosexuals are an abomination. So, as soon as you speak of homosexuality with someone, you should first specify exactly what you talk about. Are you referring to homosexual inclination? The person who feels this inclination. Homosexual practice? Settling as the couple act? Or as the couple persons? Because we should never be judging persons. We can judge acts though. So it's crucial to always specify when you're talking about when it comes to homosexuality. To keep yourself from judging people, and in the same time, not to ignore the act or the inclination itself. I'd like to state the following as an end to my presentation. Once you've defined the 5 dimensions the concept can lead to, even though I personally think the realest, most and maybe only important one is a physical attraction to same-sex individuals, it's hard to avoid questioning ourselves. Is homosexuality an actual identity? No, it isn't. People are not defined by their sexual desire, nor by the people they are attracted to, nor by what they like to do in bed, nor by their couple or their partner. Our real identity is a male or female one, and an identity of children of God, when you are lucky enough to know it. As a conclusion, sexuality is not only the bottom part of our bodies, it defines us. Only this reality will stay forever in heaven. After resurrection, no marriage will remain. Our identity as man or woman will, forever and ever. Even transgender or transsexual persons who might have changed their body. Homosexuality isn't an identity also because our feelings or genital practice don't define us. In a way, homosexuality is sexuality without sexuality. Still, even if our sexual orientation and homosexual inclination don't define us, sometimes they strongly condition our identity and our acts. So even if the word isn't a good word, it's still possible to speak of homosexual persons. Even though, in an ideal world, as stated before, I should say, I am a man and a child of God, inhabited with more or less durable sexual attraction to same-sex persons. Obviously, it sounds really long. There's no better solution than making homosexual an adjective, not a name. I don't say I'm a homosexual, I say I'm a homosexual person. That states things in a clearer way. While it doesn't reduce me to my inclination, I just say it's here, it exists. For how long? Since when? I don't know. And then I take it from there.
Why is feminine homosexuality less visible than masculine homosexuality?
Can you see me? Am I visible? Hello everyone. On my side, I'd like to talk about feminine homosexuality, and especially about how homosexual women are invisible in our societies. You may hear, make yourself visible, especially towards lesbians. This tagline replaces in some way, be proud. Be Visible is dedicated to all homosexual individuals, but particularly to lesbians, assuming they should get as visible as men. Each April 26 is the Day of Lesbian Visibility. This may raise some questions. Why should lesbians become visible? Are they invisible? Why is feminine homosexuality less considered than masculine homosexuality? It tends to be less judged as a sin, too. About lesbian invisibility in lesbian fiction. It's a theme that's often looked at. There's a stand-up by Océane Rosemary. Today she's called Océan, the invisible lesbian. Océane Rosemary analyzes how rarely and badly people talk about lesbians. When they do, they come up with clichés. She made a stand-up show out of this analysis. Other homosexual and lesbian fictions talk about lesbian invisibility. That's because all homosexual persons feel they are invisible. In fictions, books, movies, stories, the homosexual character will see himself invisible. Homosexuality itself is a fear to set yourself in the world, a fear of being unique. That's also what the notion of invisibility is about. But it's also a reality. Lesbians are indeed concretely less visible than gay men. In gay city areas, you would usually see more men and a lot less lesbian women. There are a lot more gay clubs than lesbian clubs. Feminine homosexuality may also be less bankable. There are more famous gay couples, such as Dolce & Gabbana, or Arthur Rimbaud and Paul Verlaine. It is more difficult to think of famous lesbian couples. Feminine homosexuality is less visible. It's also less punished. In countries where homosexuality is illegal, feminine homosexuality is either legal or less punished. Why are lesbian women given less importance in societies? Well, first, it's because lesbians are women. Our world gives more importance to a masculine desire. Maybe because of its crucial role in reproduction. Feminine desire comes second in a society where procreation comes first. Feminine homosexuality is also seen through a masculine point of view. It is a caricatured, false vision, for example in pornography. Lesbianism is showed as men would dream it, not how lesbian women conceive it. A masculine vision of lesbianism makes the real feminine homosexuality, the one that lesbian women identify with, invisible. Try to type lesbian in Google. It will take you straight to pornographic sites. Feminine homosexuality can be reduced to this pornography. Men also tend to believe feminine homosexuality as a passing fancy. Some men just don't take it seriously. For example, each lesbian woman heard at least once in their life a man offer her to sleep with her, saying, "I'll make you change your mind." Feminine homosexual desire is rarely taken into account, not taken seriously. The rise of bisexuality also contributes to make the lesbian-only desire less specific. The specific desire of women towards other women is diluted in an overall desire that can go either to men or women. This helps normalizing feminine homosexuality. You can see this in the fashion sector, where feminine bisexuality is always easily accepted. My last point follows. Invisibility might be the fact of lesbian women themselves. They usually tend to live their homosexuality discreetly, either individually or as a couple. So what does the tagline "Be visible" actually stand for? It invites to get visible, but only if you agree to promote, justify homosexuality. Concretely though, it is not really about increasing lesbian visibility. Even if you may find exceptions. For example, there are more and more movies or novels about lesbians. That's it. So, girls, let's dare to show ourselves. Not in the way people will want us to, not to meet marketing or headlines objectives, but truthfully. And why not, in the name of Jesus?
Is homosexuality unnatural?
I don't think so. It might be unnatural from an original sin perspective, I'd say. Apart from that, feeling like a boy or a girl, feel attracted to same-sex people, I think it's pretty much always existed.
If natural means that exists in nature and in animals, then yeah, homosexuality probably is natural. It's said that homosexuality can be found amongst animals. But I don't think it's a reason to justify it, because mankind shouldn't automatically replicate all animal behaviors.
Even though not natural, homosexuality is strongly connected with nature. I was born as a twin, I have a twin brother, it's a natural fact. And I know lots of homosexual people who were born twins. So even though homosexuality is not natural, it's strongly connected with nature. Because simply, we have physiological and corporal reactions. All this feels natural. I've always wondered why people added morality to the concept of nature. Maybe they are creationists who see nature as God. It's not because something is natural that it is just. It isn't Catholic to think this way. Even if creation comes from God, it is jeopardized by sin and violence. There's lots of violence in nature. Even if not intentional, no animal kills for bad reasons. But we, human beings, shouldn't judge what's good or what's bad according to nature. We'd rather think morally of nature and supernature, supernatural things. We are not only mammals, we are not only animals, we are also supernatural creatures. Nature isn't the only criteria of judgment or what's good or love. Same goes for homosexuality. Homosexuality isn't wrong in the sense it is unnatural. It's wrong for supernatural reasons.
To my perspective, the shape of homosexuality or transidentity is more unnatural than homosexuality or transidentity themselves the way it all came to life. Homosexual practice, hormones and surgery. This is clearly not natural to me. I don't think anyone could state it is natural to take hormones, pills or having surgery.